What's being missed in Georgia versus Alabama? For Bama, I think what's being missed is you found something in the run game. Everyone's talking about Ty Simpson, us on this show included, hand up. Everyone's talking about the receiving core and what's going on with Ryan Williams and the gritty call by Kalen DeBoer. I'm sitting back saying, man, if Bama found something in the run game, like it looks like they found something in the run game, go for over 100 yards against Auburn, even in a loss to Oklahoma, Daniel Hill downhill 4 yards a carry will take that and feel great about it. If Bama found something on the ground now, look out. Now, it's not going to be easy to run the football against Georgia, but the reason why this is so important to make sure we say it out loud, if Bama has a legitimate threat in play action in their bag, oh my gosh. Because that means you give extra real estate on the back end to a Jeremy Bernard, to a Latsier Brooks. Also, it gives a clearer picture to Ty Simpson. It just makes everyone's life easier when you can run the football. Like running the football is like being rich. I can't say this with absolute certainty because I'm not rich personally at this point in my life, but it just makes everybody's life better. It makes everything easier. It makes you have to worry about less things and makes other things, I'd have to believe here, a touch more enjoyable, like throwing bombs downfield to the receivers I just mentioned. So if Bama can find something in the run game, like they found something in the run game these last couple of weeks against Georgia, okay, now, here we go. Here we go, because they didn't really run the football that well against Georgia the first time around, like we've talked about here a couple of times. But if they can move the line of scrimmage, it's going to be another loss added to the column for Kirby Smart against Bama, and we'll talk about that record here in a matter of moments. But for Georgia, I think what's being missed for the Dogs is that a group of skill players that they had in Athens in this first round. I think they've progressed a lot since that game. You go back and look at the numbers here. Gunnar Stockton, we mentioned a couple of times. He, I think, has progressed even since that game. I think Georgia trusts him more even since that game. It's his second SEC start ever when they played that first round. Now, I know the Tennessee game happened before, so I'm not dismissing that, but you understand the game against Alabama is probably a little bit of a different feel to it. You go back to those numbers, only 4 wide receivers caught a pass against Alabama in round 1. 4. 2 of those 4 receivers caught 1 ball. Zach Branch had 3 catches on the day. I'm not telling you Zach Branch is just going to go crazy in this spot and be the difference for Georgia, but I think we're kidding ourselves a little bit if we don't think that Georgia has gotten more comfortable with who they have in that wide receiver room, whether it be Humphreys or Zachariah Branch or a Noah Thomas, who's been phenomenal in relief of a Colby Young. Like, there's a lot there for Georgia that I think needs to be analyzed a little bit more closely. Because if Georgia can force the issue throwing the football, if Georgia gets a hotter start, if Georgia gets a hotter start in those previous 2 matchups against Kalen DeBoer, maybe that game breaks differently. Because we told you before, Georgia spotted Bama 14 points in that matchup this year. They spotted them 28 points in the matchup the year before. In both games, Georgia came back to lose by 1 score. So going back to what I said here, if that group of skill players, just the receiver room in general, if they have a little bit more juice to them, if they're more comfortable and they can get their traction earlier in this football game, could see a different outcome than what you've had the last 8 tries if you're Kirby Smart. Now, that's the thing that's being over-talked about in this game. This is usually a what's being missed, what's being under-talked about segment. What's being over-talked about, an irresponsible narrative to me, is Kirby Smart's record against Alabama. You're going to hear it a lot. You've probably already heard it a million times over the course of this week. Kirby 1-7 against Bama. Kirby, does Georgia have a Bama problem? And when you look at that record, it's tough to say that Georgia doesn't have a Bama problem because the numbers are what they are. But I hear that, and quite frankly, I just don't care. I don't care because you know what? 6 of those 8 games were against the greatest coach in the history of the sport, against Nick Saban, so I think you take that with a grain of salt. Also, how many of those games had massive stakes to them? 2 of them were national title games, and you split there between Bama and Georgia, going 1-1. A bunch of them were SEC title games. One of them was a regular season, quote-unquote, game during COVID. That in itself kind of is an outlier in itself. You kind of put an asterisk next to everything that was the COVID season, in my humble opinion. A lot of them are 1-score games. Like, you see where I'm going? It's not like Georgia's showing up and has a problem against an opponent they shouldn't have a problem with. Like, the ball bounces funny ways. It's shaped in a different way, and you got a bunch of 18 and 22-year-olds. This is a game of tremendous variance. And the fact that Georgia's in all of these games, I don't think you don't get any more sleep at night because you were close against Bama in a lot of those 8 games. But I do think you have to at least take into account the context, the stakes, the game of themselves, and the way they broke. Like, to be real here, too, that one game that broke for Georgia in the national title game their way, Bama was down at receiver. So you could be living in a world here where Georgia has no wins against Bama, or you could be living in a world here where Georgia has a 500 record against Bama, just by nature of how those games went. So, again, I'm not trying to water down the importance of that 1-7 record. I'm just telling you, for this game, that record should mean nothing. I promise you, Kalen DeBoer's not talking about it. I promise you, nobody in that locker room in Tuscaloosa is pointing to it as a reason why they're going to be successful on Saturday. I just think that Kirby Smart 1-7 stuff against Bama, a little bit overdone for my liking. I don't think it'll have any factor in this game, and I would care a lot more if it was Auburn or Kentucky that was giving Georgia massive problems, and that was Kirby Smart's record. It's Bama. For the most part, it's been Nick Saban, and even Kalen DeBoer in his own right, one of the best coaches in college football. So that's what's being missed, what's being under-talked about and over-talked about in the SEC championship game.